What's up, guys? How's it going? Oops. Wrong button. There we are. How's it going, guys? Today is a video about a neat program that I want you guys to possibly check out. This is a very different approach to making music, a very different approach to music in general that I have been learning a lot about these past few months. And with your time during this home learning time, maybe you've got some time that you want to devote to learning about music in a very different way as well. I'll admit to you right at the start that this is a confusing way to approach music, and sometimes you'll try something and it will do absolutely nothing, or it will do something that you don't understand, or it will not work, or it will work in a very different way than you expected. But that's kind of the cool part of the learning process, and not being afraid to fail. This is a program where you're just going to try things and it might work out. You might make some cool things. You might make some weird sounds. You might find some really neat ways to make music as well. So I'm going to walk you guys through in this video kind of what's going on here in this way of making music. Talk you through some specifics of this program called VCV Rack, which is a free program, by the way. And then show you some examples of what you can do. And then if you're interested in learning more, find you some resources to go about that. So let me go ahead and open up a little file here that I can show you some of the basics of what this is. So VCV Rack is a way to create music that is there's a real life version of it as well, where you're using actual modules and real knobs and stuff, but that is super expensive way to go about it. But this is a free program, and this way of making music is called modular synthesis. So modular synthesis is you are controlling the waves to actually create the sound. You are in charge of the shapes of the waves. You're in charge of how they go, how they change, and you're sending these waves through different things, and they get morphed and they get tweaked, and different things happen to them, and that's actually how the sound is created. So in this really basic thing right here, this is just my way to get to the speakers. This is the thing that I'm going to be able to change the volumes with, and this right here is my actual wave maker. The VCO that it says at the top is called voltage controlled oscillator. Oscillator just means something that's vibrating, and you know sound is all about vibrations. So this is the actual sound maker. So when I plug that into this scope, you can see that's the wave. If I turn down the frequency knob, it gets to be a bigger wave. If I turn up the frequency knob, it gets to be a smaller wave, or rather slower and faster, I guess I should say. And then when I plug that into the speakers by plugging it into the first channel of my mixer here, it sounds like this. Again, make it higher by turning up the frequency, and we can see it in the scope and hear it with our ears, and then lower as well. But like I said when I first was showing this VCO stands for voltage controlled oscillator. So I can control the different parameters of this with another thing. But before I get into that, let me not jump the gun here. There's also different types of waves. It's all about controlling waves. So there are waves that are called triangle waves, where it kind of goes up and then comes back down, goes up and comes back down, kind of like a triangle. There's a sawtooth wave where it goes up and then drops straight down. This is the shape of the wave. And this is just the shape of the voltage that they're making, and that voltage gets sent to your speakers or headphones, and you hear it that way. Square waves just go high voltage, low voltage, high voltage, low voltage, nothing in between. And those different waves, shapes, are going to have drastically different sounds. The sine wave that we started with has the smoothest, most gentle sound. And as we get to more drastic changes in voltage, it gets to be a harsher tone. I'm changing the volume as I go. The sawtooth wave, even harsher. Let me turn it down some more. And then the square tooth, or the square wave, Yikes. We can play with those different ones. I'm going to bring it back to the sine wave as we go through here. This more gentle wave there, and bring that volume back up. So, voltage controlled oscillator. So what this is all about now is we're going to make other waves control our sound wave. So let me come over here, and these are all different things that you can put into here. These ones all come with VCV Rack, and you can get a whole bunch more that I'll show later at some point. But this one right here is called a low frequency oscillator. So again, it's about making a wave, but it's a low frequency. That means it's a slow wave. So if I plug this into my scope here, we can see that pink line going up and down. And it's going slow enough that you actually see it moving as opposed to just seeing the whole waveform. And I can slow it down, and I can speed it up as we go through here. But then what I can do is I can make this control the frequency of my blue wave here. So this is my frequency modulation thing. FM stands for frequency modulation. So now my slow wave is going to control the frequency of this wave. So it's like an invisible hand is going to be turning up and down this frequency knob. And how much it turns it up and down is changed by this. So now you can see the blue wave is starting to get longer and shorter, faster and slower. And so the sound of that's going to be like this. And as I slow down and speed up this low frequency oscillator, it makes the change happen slower, or it makes the change happen faster. So that's what we're doing. And then I can make it change it more. I can make it change it more or less using this knob. I can make it go really high and really low, and all this kind of crazy stuff. So that's the basics. I can have waves controlling other waves. So we've got our voltage controlled oscillator. We've got our low frequency oscillator that we then can control that. But to make it a little more musical, we can put something else in here. We can go into, let's see, where's my quantizer? So a quantizer locks it into specific notes. So I can turn on notes here, turn on and off notes here. So if you imagine that this is all the notes available to us, if I turn off, let's see, I want to make a minor scale. So I've got my root, my minor. This is getting a little more complicated, but if you basically want to just try it, trial and error always works as well. So now it's only going to lock the notes into these notes. So as it goes through, it's only going to lock the notes into, instead of any note it wants to, it's only going to lock it into these ones here. So now you can see, let's see, what do we got here? Now our sound is going to be a little bonkers in the end, and I'll explain why in just a second. It goes super high, and then it comes back down. You can hear us locking in individual notes, but it goes way too high for our hearing. Don't you agree? It goes way too high for our hearing. And here's the advantage of it going of using it all with everything's being controlled by voltage. I plop one of these guys in, which is voltage controlled amplification or amplifier. I can basically turn down the volume of this, because right now this wave, you can see my pink wave on here, is going from the bottom all the way up to 10 volts. That means this is, when I plug that into here, it's making it go 10 octaves higher than normal. That's way more than we need it to. So I'm going to turn down the volume of this. Now my pink wave, if I can get rid of this guy here, if my pink wave is no longer going to be giant up to the top. It's just going to move up and down a little bit. And now that's going to get sent into my quantizer. And now let's have a listen. And if I want to make it change faster, I speed this up. If I want to add in some notes that it'll play, and I can do things like that. Sorry, I just got zoned out in there. I was not making a video at all. I was just watching the music and seeing it happen. So that's what those are kind of some of the basics of what we got. So next question is, how would you go about getting this? If this interests you, if you're interested in messing around with this, how would you get it? If you go, whoops, wrong window. If I pull this window up here, this is the website for it. VCV Rack is what it's called. If you pull up VCV Rack here, you can just download it here. It's a free program. It'll come with a lot of modules already, and I'll talk about the rest of the library in a little bit later in the video. But if you just download that, it will download the program and it'll start working. Let me show you what it's going to look like when you first open it up. The program the thing it's going to end up being at, here's the original template. So this is what it's going to look like when you first download it. And the one thing you'll have to do at first is select your speakers here. And I don't completely understand all that parts, but if you basically try choose what audio device you need, if you try something, click on the middle thing and then try some of the things, you'll end up getting it to work. But then what this is actually doing is this is using your keyboard. You can use your keyboard to play it like a piano. If you play across the Z, X, C buttons, that's going to be like the white keys of a piano. And you've got... And that's going to set you up with an interesting way to make music as well. And again, I can come and I can change some of the things that are happening. I can change this. This is how the notes get attacked. I can have it start harsher, or I can have it start slower. And you can play around with things like that, and then change the drive of the sound too. So you can mess around with things like that. But then when you begin to make your own, let me see where I was going with this. Minimize that guy. Where did everything go? There it is. When you're exploring where do you want to go next after you are doing this and you're making your own, you can, let me just delete some of these things here, like that. If you right click on, let me bring these back because I want to keep the mixer there for funsies. So my mixer is now plugged into there, and then if you right click, you've got all these things here that you can explore. And again, your VCOs are going to be the ones that make your sounds. Then you can control those with other things, send them through some filters like the VCF, and you can learn what the other things do as you go through. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do with just these units here. Let me show you some things that I'd made with just those units, and then I'll talk about what you can do once you kind of are a little bit understanding what's happening with those. Here's some ones I made with VCV only. Here we go. So this thing right here is a sequencer, where I can set up a sequence and then have that send to things to play. I've got this kind of noise-making cymbal happening. I've got, where's my main LFO that's controlling the speed of all this stuff? This guy right here, this LFO2, is kind of controlling those things that you're hearing speed up and slow down as I go. Let me pull up another one here. This guy. So you can hear the sound is changing as well, because what I'm doing as I go through, this LFO here is being sent out and it's controlling, let me see what all the things it's controlling. It's controlling the release time of the notes, making the release times be extended and slowed down. It's also changing the release time on a couple things. So when suddenly the notes start lasting longer, that's me having this slow wave control how long the notes are lasting with these things that are controlling the attack, decay, sustain, and release. And let's go ahead and stop that sound. So there's a lot you can do even with just these modules that are within, that automatically come with VCV Rack. If you're going into this more and you're interested in finding out more, that just takes coming back to the VCV website and checking out their library. And on here, you can, ooh, they redid how this looks. Interesting. You can even just look for the free ones. And there's a lot of things here. They really redid how this works. What if we go, if you hit on plugins, there we go. This is what I'm used to looking at. But anyway, you can, I guess I can't show you around this website as well because of the fact that they just redid it. But you can download these different plugins that will give you some of these, and they, where are we? Sorry, this website is very different from last time I used it, so I can't quite tell you exactly how this all is working. But if you'll have to make a login for them and check out what they've got. But it's a neat way to get more of these different modules. So if you want to make something like what we saw at the beginning, it uses modules that you have to download separately. But again, all of these ones are still for free. Everything that you see in this guy. Let's bring that volume down a little bit. Everything you see on here is still a free module that I downloaded. So if you are interested in learning more, we've got a couple options here. First thing, email me if you either have questions or you're interested in this but you're not sure where to start. I'd love to help answer some of those questions, whether that's through a Zoom conversation where I can share my screen, or you can, or we can go from there, or just answering a quick question in an email. That'd be cool. So again, this is something I'm still learning about, and but I'm absolutely loving learning about it. And so I wanted to see if you guys would want to learn too. Another option, if you want to learn more, let me hop over here to Chrome. I learned a lot of my things from these two guys. This video here, I'll put a link in the description of this. This is Andrew Huang, a musician on YouTube, who, this is the video that made me understand how modular synthesis worked. I had heard of it before, but didn't understand it until I watched this. So if what I'm saying doesn't make sense, maybe watch his. Maybe he'll explain it better. Or maybe you'll still be confused after both, and that's okay too. The other person that I've watched is this guy, Omri Cohen, and I've linked both his channel as well as a YouTube playlist called Beginner Patches, where he walks you through. He's got a kind of more broken down way of explaining how to start off in VCV Rack. So if you're interested in learning more about this and just want a little bit more guidance, these might be the way to go as well. So again, I encourage you guys, just go at this. Your time not at school should still be about learning. But if I would say learning is it can look in very different ways, can look very different for different people. And I encourage you, if this is something that seems at all interesting to you, dive into it. Check it out, and you might find that it's right up your alley, like I certainly did. So anywho, if you have any questions, please email me or send me a message somehow, and we will go for there. Thanks.